Hello and welcome to the People's Lawyer channel. Today's recording is from part 4 of the live in-person talk recorded at Dorking in October 2022. And today's installment is entitled Mass Hypnosis. Part 4, right, mass formation hypnosis, trolley apology. So what am I talking about? Well, if you want a clue as to what's going on, go into a supermarket, take a trolley, and with the most evil grin on your face, find an innocent victim and bash their trolley with yours, and I can guarantee you they will apologize. They'll be, oh, sorry, they haven't done anything. You have just proven mass hypnosis. They're in a trance. They haven't been conscious enough to see, in fact, that it was your movements, not theirs, that created the collision. You can even take a flying run at them, screaming Geronimo, and they'll still apologize. We've got 3 groups essentially. I do like to simplify. There's 3 groups. So we know that we've got the mass hypnotized. That's group 1. They're going to take jabs until kingdom come. They're going to wear masks and take jabs and have a go at you for not doing the same. Then you've got the demoralized, and this is 2 important facets of mass hypnosis. The demoralized, they went to school for too long and they went from being bouncy, buoyant boys and girls into grey-faced teenagers, and everyone blames hormones. It's got nothing to do with hormones, it's schooling. It's schooling. Hormones is what the system says it is, because the system's trying to hide the fact that it's school. You've got the hypnotized, don't even bother talking to them, right? The hypnotized, gone until further notice, leave them alone. The demoralized, yes, that's the group in the middle. They swing towards the hypnotized because the hypnotized are a very powerful lobby. They're so gung-ho about compliance that the demoralized think, oh, sod it, I think I better comply. Because they haven't got the strength, the moral fibre and the physical strength to argue the toss with the terminally hypnotized. And then you've got the rebels, and humanity is going to be saved by the rebels. We're the ones that we've been waiting for, the rebels. The meek. Meek in the sense that we know our own mind. I think the word meek is a bit dodgy. I don't think it should be meek. It should be someone who owns their own thoughts. In other words, someone who's not going to bully anybody else. They're just going to do their own thing. That's what I think meek means. Inheriting the earth. So there you go, hypnotized, demoralized and rebels. So mass formation, how does it work? Well, you come away from school with complex post-traumatic stress from birth, upbringing and schooling. So it's not just schooling. You may have been slapped about. You may have had your umbilical cord snatched before the nutrition went in to your body. And then slapped. You know, the birthing process is a major traumatic event. We get off to a very bad start, folks. And then upbringing. You may have been born to 1 or 2 narcissistic parents. And then schooling. So what this gives us is a sense of isolation. Sort of a bit of the poor me. Ooh, no one understands me. I'm suffering here inside my skin. And also gives us a lack of meaning, because when we're dealing with that suffering, we can lose track of what we should be doing because we're more focused on how it all hurts and it doesn't all feel right. Schooling takes away any purpose and meaning, because that's not the purpose of schooling. It's to precisely take the meaning away, otherwise it would have potentially a room full of rebels who are looking for their own purpose and meaning. School can't handle that. You've got free-floating anxiety because of the fear porn, the threats, the micro-traumas, the torture, punishments, humiliations, and of course at a certain point it makes you angry. So that anger first kicks in at teenage. Anger and frustration is more visible at teenage because they're out on the streets being angry. And that makes you fodder for the system because you're wobbling. You're wobbly, you're out of your centre. Nervous wreck, addicted, lost soul, all those things. So that makes you vulnerable to attack. So now the system will kick in with the attack. And it creates a problem psychologically outside of you. So there's your first port of call. There's something outside of me. I can take my mind off me and I can focus on a problem out there. So already we're beginning to feel a certain relief. There's an enemy out there that I can focus on. And then the government or its organizations that it's in alignment with offers a collective solution to this collective external problem. So we're taking you out of yourself, out of your discomfort internal zone, into a world in which we've all got the same problem. And now they're starting to cure your sense of isolation. They're starting to cure your sense of purpose. Ah, I've got a purpose. I can fight this problem. Drugs, terrorism, CV19, whatever. I've got a purpose. And when you cooperate, again, it heals the rift of never having been allowed to cooperate in school. Because cooperation was labelled as cheating. We're still in phase 2, and this collective cooperation becomes like a therapeutic process for the individual. If I can just identify with a group, fight a common cause, I can forget my own problems. Now you know why you can't ask a mask wearer to take the mask off. You'd be asking them to disrupt their own therapy. It's not going to happen. And when you interfere with that therapeutic process, you're running quite a few risks. At the very least, verbal abuse and perhaps worse. If they're in therapy, leave them alone. Why people can't see the truth? Well, this is a KGB agent. When they are demoralized, you can tell them nothing. Even if you give them the most reliable factual information, it means nothing to them. Nothing whatsoever. It's actually offensive. Doesn't mean we're wrong. It just means that technically we are actually offending them. By prodding, we are offending them. They are demoralized, and as he says, the tragedy of demoralization means that people's morals become debased, demoralized, demoral. Yeah. And that means education becomes indoctrination. We're seeing this now. It's been happening for a while, but we're seeing it more and more. It's more visible, that's the only difference. Entertainment becomes hypnotism. Criminals become leaders. Lies become truth. That's what demoralization does. So behind all this, how are we going to encapsulate this to get a handle on it? Is it genocide? Well, there's definitely a genocidal agenda, but is it actually genocide? Is it democide, which is so genocide is the mass extermination of entire races, and democide is just mass murder, basically. Is it manslaughter? Well, let's go back to genocide, democide. You need to have victimized someone physically, because at the moment it's just psychological. People are taking the jab because they see it as a therapeutic process. So is it genocidal to give someone a therapeutic process that happens to kill some of them? So I would say no, it's not genocide and it's not democide, even though there are undoubtedly genocidal and democidal agendas. Is it manslaughter? Yes, it could be if you can prove that someone ought to have known better. Certainly doctors and nurses ought to have known better. And it's certainly possibly manslaughter, or very least criminal misconduct in a public office. And the CEOs, definitely corporate manslaughter. Is it suicide? There was a French judge that did not allow the beneficiaries of the estate of someone who took a jab and died. They did not allow the estate to prosecute for any kind of homicide, because the judge said, well, he volunteered to take the jab. So he volunteered to take the jab, but he didn't know it was going to kill him, so it's not suicide. See how clever, how insanely clever this is. But what it is, without doubt, is menticide, the killing of the human mind, the killing of the human spirit, the killing of the will to live on. Menticide, it is a concept, but it's not a crime. It's not a crime to kill someone's spirit. Not in the legal system. This menticide is fueled by a pandemic of gaslighting and virtue signalling. That's what we've got on an industrial scale. Gaslighting and virtue signalling. Now, totalitarianism. Everyone thinks about Mao and Lenin and and Mussolini and Hitler and all those lovely, lovely characters, they're irrelevant. Totalitarianism works through your neighbour and your family members. Totalitarianism is man's escape from the fearful realities of life into the virtual womb of the leaders. The individual's actions are directed from this womb, from the inner sanctum. Man need no longer assume responsibility for his own life. The order and logic of the prenatal world reign. There is peace and silence. The peace of utter submission. So your family member and neighbour propping up this totalitarianism, they're looking for their therapy within the system. Nanny state, peace of mind, silence. They don't want to get involved. They're opting out of life. And that is symbolised by the fact that they, in ever-increasing numbers, are dying from the jab. It reflects their opting out of life. That part is their choice. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. If they've got you thinking the thoughts that suit them, they've got you on a plate. If you're thinking thoughts that suit you and your well-meaning brethren, brothers and sisters, you're still in the game, you're still fighting the good fight. Humanity is at the crossroads, so we've got carbon-based Homo sapiens who will soon be extinct. No question about that, no choice. That version of humanity is on its way out. Either through the dark agenda or through the light agenda. It makes no difference. That version of humanity soon will be redundant as we move up through the frequencies. But those who are still Homo sapiens are being given a choice. You can go down into Silicon Valley and be offered eternal physicality through artificial intelligence and the metaverse, and have all artificial intelligence devices serve your needs. That's what they'll tell you, but obviously, as we know, it will be turned around, like the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, when the human astronaut is jettisoned when the computer on board HAL decides that the human astronaut is surplus to requirements. The beast eats its own children. So if you're opting for Silicon Valley into the metaverse, you will be devoured. Not immediately, but eventually. It won't take long. If you stay carbon, then you'll miss out on the frequency shift towards crystal. And I think carbon humans will always exist, but they won't exist on this planet because it's ascending. That's the point I'm making. So if you're opting out of the good fight on this planet, the good news is you'll come back on another planet which looks exactly like this. It may even be this one, but it'll be another time and space. Meanwhile, we're here, those who are going up the frequencies, becoming Homo Angelicus, or more importantly, paving the way for the new ones. There's a few here. The crystals, who are HD, the equivalent of HD. High definition. They're ready. They're receiving. I heard yesterday of a 2.5-year-old, 2.5 years old, telling her mum, "Mummy, you're pregnant." And the mum hadn't even had a test. But the 2.5-year-old knew already. And they've got Chinese children who can read with their armpits. The super psychics, they call them. Why do you think that the forces of darkness are so frantic? They will never be able to control these super psychics, these super gifteds. So our job is to make sure that they have an earth to inherit. That's the only job that we have until further notice. Once we've won that battle, then we can play cards, table tennis, watching the odd movie. We can go back to that. Till then, our job is to make sure that the generations coming through can bring their gifts and talents and telekinesis and telepathy and clairvoyance and healing skills. The story about the Chinese children reading with their armpits, that's factual, scientifically proven. The Americans sent a team over to test it. They all passed the test. The planet is ascending, and so our job is to respect that process and pave the way for the boys and girls coming through to go with the planet. We are at war to desecrate, destroy or control our Holy Land. The first Holy Land is obvious. It's the planet in its entirety. It's not Mecca, it's not Jerusalem. Those are distractions. It's the planet as a whole. and the fractal version of the planet as a whole, which is us. That's what the holy war is. It's the war on your wholeness. It's the war against the planetary wholeness. That's what holy wars are. There's a W in the word holy. That's why I've got W in white there. Holy without the W means full of holes. So a holy man without a W is a man full of holes. Holy woman, ditto. Again, all part of the, oh, I am not worthy, your holiness, your highness, bollocks. If you're whole with a W, no one, whatever frock they're wearing, is fit to say anything to you, because they're just play acting at holiness without the W. Do you not know, again, biblical reference, do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If you don't know that, you've got some catching up to do, I can tell you. Because you've had a secular upbringing. We all have. This is new. Oh, God dwells within me. Oh, no one ever told me that before. I'm telling you now. Where else can God be? Apart from everywhere. Within you. Your body and your planet are your two greatest gifts and the most valuable things you own. You do own your body. That's why you're not being jabbed, because you own your body. That was part 4 of Disclosure 2022, Mass Hypnosis. Stay tuned for part 5, which is Dark Legal Deceptions, and in particular part 5A, which is the government's true legal status, and part 5B, which is our own true legal status. Thank you for tuning in, and see you soon. Bye for now.